Okay, so we're looking at the spreadsheet model, and I will be taking you through the formulas that you've got on each sheet, along with different features that you can use to illustrate simplification of data entry, ease of use, and professionalism and error trapping. So we'll start with the sheet you can see in front of you. This is the switchboard. In terms of ease of use and professionalism, this gives your users a way of navigating your spreadsheet. You can see I can click the buttons and I can get to each sheet, and then there's a button on each sheet to take me back to the switchboard. That increases ease of use. The switchboard itself acts as a sort of main menu, therefore increasing the sort of professional look of the spreadsheet. These buttons are powered by macros. The macros, I'll show you. There we go. There's a really simple macro, navigational macro, that takes you to the invoice sheet. And you can read the code, so select, and then there we go, invoice. So that macro, its job is to take you to the invoice sheet. So you've got macros behind each of these buttons. While I'm talking about macros, let's just cover the big macro that you've got on the invoice sheet. So this is the macro which saves your invoice to the saved bills sheet. So the saved bills sheet, it records every invoice you've ever issued. So it would be like a little record of every invoice the organisation had generated. If I just change this, here we go, just change the first name of our customer, that's reflected in the current bill sheet. You can see, there we go, I've changed the first name to Archie. So the current bill sheet is an exact copy of whatever is on the invoice. When I press the Save Bills button, it copies whatever's in current bill into saved bills. And it does that using a macro. So let's have a look at that macro. There we go. So you can see that's a more complex macro. And its job is to, you can see, select the rows from current bill and copy them, and then go to saved bills and paste the values. If you have to talk about a macro in the exam, if you're asked about a macro, then one of the easier navigational macros would be sufficient. So that was the switchboard. We're now on the invoice sheet. The invoice sheet has spaces for the invoice number and invoice date up here. And to the right you can see there's space for the customer's information. And then we have the main invoice here with the subtotal, VAT, postage, and then the final total at the bottom of the invoice. So what I'm going to do now is talk you through the features on this sheet. We're going to start with simplification of data entry. So we have several features on this sheet that make data entry easier. The first one is the drop-down list, the combo box. This makes data entry easier because you're just selecting from a list. It also reduces errors, or the potential for errors, because the person using your spreadsheet only has the choice of these features, of this list. They can't type in their own, they can't get the typing wrong. So in that respect, it reduces the chance of errors. If I click on one of the items, 1000 pedal, watch what happens to cells B17, C17 and E17. Okay, so you probably saw that when I choose an item from the combo box list, the item reference number, the description and the price are automatically populated. Just watch that again. If I choose 8888 saddle, go item reference number, description and price. So again, that is simplifying data entry, and it's doing that using a Vlookup function. And I'm going to start by talking you through the Vlookup. So if I just switch to formula view, here we go. The Vlookup is the most complex formula you've got in your sheet, so let's spend a bit of time explaining it. So what the lookup function does, it looks up a value in a specific range of cells and finds a match for you. In this case, if we come over to this cell B17, the lookup function reads like this, if I were reading it in plain English. Please look up whatever is in A17, go find it in the lookup table and return whatever value is in the second column from the left. And then the false on the end means find an exact match. So let me just run through that again. Equals Vlookup, please look up whatever's in A17, go and find a match with whatever's in A17 in the lookup table, wherever that might be, more on that in a minute. Then we've got the comma 2, so find a match in the second column in from the left and find an exact match. The lookup table, where we want it to go to find a match, is located on the stock worksheet. If I just select, okay, let's try that again. So here we are. So you can see the lookup up here in the name box. So that range of cells, A7 to F17, is called lookup. This just makes it easier to refer to in formulas. That's why you might want to name a range of cells. So we have instructed our lookup function here to take a look at what's in A17, which is 8888 saddle women, and find a match with that in the lookup table on the stock sheet, and then return to us whatever's in the second column, which in this case we're hoping is 8888. And if I go to the stock sheet, saddle women, it will find a match with saddle women. Second column contains the code. If I show the formula again on the invoice, let's have a look at the next lookup. So this lookup, identical apart from the column it's referencing. So this lookup is programmed to say, please look up, again, whatever's in cell A17, find a match in the lookup table, which we now know is on the stock sheet, and return whatever value is in column 3. So column 3, hopefully, says saddle women. Column 1, 2, 3, saddle women. And finally, we've got to look up in the price cell. There we go. Look up whatever's in A17 in the lookup table and return whatever value is in column 5. Column 5 then hopefully containing the price. So I can find a match in this row because it's finding A17, which was 8888 saddle women, and then column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the price of £10. So the lookup function on your invoice simplifies data entry. We've got three other methods of simplifying data entry on this sheet. Let's go through them now. We've got the spinner here, which when pressed up increases the quantity. I've made my spinner a little shorter than the width of the cell so that you can see there's a number behind it. So as I press up, the number in that cell increases. As I press down, the number in that cell decreases. So this makes data entry easier because you don't have to type any numbers in, you've just got to click. We've then got the tick box on VAT. So if you want to apply VAT, you just tick the box. If you want to remove VAT from the invoice for this customer, you take the tick out of the box. And then finally, we've got these radio buttons over here for postage. So I can select £5 if I want to apply parcel postage, and you can see the £5 is then displayed in cell G28. I can select the next radio button down if I want to apply first class postage, and the next radio button down if I want to apply second class postage. All of those are methods of simplifying data entry, and you can use any of those as examples in the exam. Now let's finish with this sheet by going through the remaining formula. You have got a single if, a multiple if, and we'll have a look at those now. So if I just show the formula of this sheet. So we've got a simple multiplication in column F, working out the subtotal. Subtotal is quantity times price. And then we've got in column G, we've got the total less discount. Those of you resitting your AS exam, you won't have that column, and that's absolutely fine. I'll point out where your single if is in a minute. But those of you who are taking this exam this year for the first time, you do have this column. Let's examine what this if does. If I just hide the formula again. So the total less discount is, if we look at the formula up here in the formula bar, we'll deduct £5 from the subtotal if the order is over £50. So let's examine it in closer detail. So if F17 is more than 50, then please subtract whatever's in C35 from F17, otherwise just display what's in F17. If we move across and down a little, you can see that C35 contains the discount figure of £5. So what we're saying is, if the customer's subtotal for that item is more than £50, then please subtract £5 from their order. Otherwise, just show the subtotal from F17. You'll notice that there is a lovely absolute cell reference in that formula to fix cell C35 in place, and I'm just going to demonstrate what would happen if that wasn't an absolute cell reference. If I take out the dollar signs, here we go, and then copy that formula down. Now, it doesn't appear to do anything hideous, but if I just show you the formula again. So the first one, all is well. If F17 is more than 50, then F17 minus that C35, which contains our discount of £5, otherwise just show the subtotal. But then something funny happens. The next one down, if F18 is more than 50, that's right, then F18 minus C36. Oh, C36 over here doesn't contain our discount figure. And then by the time it gets down here, if F24 is more than 50, then F24 minus C42. C42 contains nothing at all and is way off our invoice. So those dollar signs around the C35 pin C35 in place so that it doesn't copy in relation to the cells around it. The other cells, we don't mind them copying relatively, but this we want to be fixed and absolute. Therefore, we have the dollar signs in our formula so that when we copy the formula, when we replicate it, there we go, C35 remains C35 right the way down. So there's your first single if. Your next single if is sitting here in cell G27, and it's there to work out the VAT. If I go back to data view, when I tick the VAT box, there we go, VAT is worked out, VAT at 20%. If I take the tick out, there is no VAT applied. The formula is this. If H27 is true, so if it's ticked, if the box is ticked basically, then G26, which is our subtotal, times 20%, otherwise 0. So if H27 is true, if the box is ticked, then please multiply the subtotal by 20%, otherwise show 0. Those of you who are doing the reset, that's the single if you should talk about. Next, all of you have got a multiple if in cell G28, which works out the postage. Now let me hide the formula again. Let's just go back over and look at these radio buttons. I have unhidden this value in cell C29 so that you can see what it's doing. When I press the first radio button, the number 1 appears in C29. When I press the second radio button, the number 2 appears in cell C29. And when I press the third radio button, the number 3 appears. And that's really crucial for our multiple if over here in cell G28. Let me expand the formula. So the formula is if C29 equals 1, which it will do if we've chosen the first radio button, then please display whatever's in C30, which is actually the price of a parcel. Comma, if C29 equals 2, which it will if I've pressed the second radio button, then please show whatever is in C31, which happens to be the price of a first class letter. Otherwise, show whatever is in cell C32, which is the price of the second class letter. So a multiple if is where you've got more than one if statement. So if C29 equals 1, do this. If C29 equals 2, do that. And otherwise, if neither of those things are true, please return the value in C32. Finally, on this sheet, you have got a sum function in cell G26, working out the subtotal. And then down in cell G33, we've got a simple addition there, which is G26 plus G27 plus G28 to work out the total. So that is your invoice. Finally, stock sheet. The stock sheet is the source of our Vlookup on the invoice. It also contains a graph. Graph, ease of use again, and processing, allowing you to view your data in a slightly different way. In this case, we're viewing stock numbers, and you can see at a glance that we have a lot of 8888 saddle women in stock, not a lot of 4444 body armour. So it allows you to see data slightly differently, and in this case, a graphical representation of data is easier to look at a glance than the table of data is. We've got some additional formula on the stock sheet. So we've got a count function in cell E17, counting the number of items that we have in stock. So we know we stock 10 different types of item. 10 different items. Then we've got a min function working out the minimum number in stock, so the item with the lowest number in stock, and the max function working out the item with the maximum number in stock. We've then got the average price and average number in stock, and a roundup of the average number in stock. The roundup function used because, of course, your average here is 18.1. You would never have 18.1 as the average number in stock. You need a whole number, so it rounds it up for you. You also will have done some evidence in your print screens showing a sort and a filter using the stock sheet. So a filter allows you to filter out extraneous information that you don't need, and the sort allows you to view data in a different way, so ascending or descending. Save bills and current bills we've already talked about. Okay, so let's go back to the switchboard. That is your spreadsheet. I will do another video shortly showing you some model answers using my spreadsheet to answer the questions. Just make sure you know and can talk about where you've used features for simplification of data entry, ease of use and professionalism. And then, of course, your formula and functions, make sure you can talk about those as well. And that's it.